We are going to be analyzing this letter. Now, this letter is from the U.S. Federal Housing Authority, Housing Finance Agency, and it's addressed to the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, as well as the Honorable Todd Blanche. And so what I want to do is I want to dig into the details so that we get a greater understanding of what is happening here, because Big Tish had a whole lot of smoke for the now President of the United States, Donald Trump. And he was catching all kinds of cases with this chick. I mean, she just wouldn't let up. And despite what other people might believe, I do believe what happened to Donald Trump in most of those cases was lawfare. However, with the New York case was really, really weird because we've never known anyone to be prosecuted for taking out a loan, properly representing the value of said property, having it substantiated by multiple appraisals, the bank agreeing to those appraisals, the person paying back the loan and saying, hey, we've been made solvent, we've been made whole, there are no issues here. And yet he's prosecuted anyway. And then they tried to, they just wrapped up so much in that real estate property value appraisal case. I don't really know the formal name for it, but the reason why we saw a lot of this lawfare is because they knew that Donald Trump was already on to the level of corruption in our government, and he had every intention on draining the swamp. I also believe that the Democrat Party, they knew that they didn't have a leg to stand on. Their policies are unpopular, and that Donald Trump was going to win if the American people ever had an opportunity to hear his policy plans and vision for this nation going forward. And sadly, they did not want that. There is a concerted effort by a particular segment of our country to destroy the country from within. They want to enrich themselves. They want to crush and obliterate the middle class. And they do so by implementing policies that are just completely anti-American. And so because they are drunk and thirsty for power, and they emphatically hate you and me, the American people, they have been heavily engaged in lawfare, meaning they are weaponizing the judicial system against their political opponents because they cannot win elections fair and square. They are just some really dirty rascals that do all kinds of intimidation and subjugation. And this is not new. This is who the Democrat Party has always been. They've always been the party that likes to bully and debo their way to results. All you have to do is look at the military arm of the Democrat Party, the KKK. They did lots of voter intimidation, trying to make sure that Black people did not function in their freedom and voted for the party of their choice, but therefore told them this is who you're going to vote for. And fast forward to today, they still are engaged in active voter suppression and intimidation. They will use violence. They will use lies, all kinds of manipulation tactics in order to influence the outcome of a result, of an election result in their favor. And so this lawfare situation really is nothing new for them. This is just Democrats being Democrats. And so let's go ahead, you guys, and we're going to examine this document. I've not looked at the entire document in its entirety because I was picking up my kids from Bible study, and Mandy sent this to me, and she was like, you may want to take a look at this. And so this is regarding a criminal referral. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in just a little bit to see if that helps. Oh, that looks real good. Oh yeah, that looks real good, real nice. I was going to make it a little bigger, but then it cuts off the page. So It's Dear Attorney General Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. And this is from the U.S. Federal Housing Finance Agency, and they are the agency that's responsible for regulating Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and the Federal Home Loan Bank. That is their job. And so it says, we take very seriously allegations of mortgage fraud or other criminal activity. Such misconduct jeopardizes the safety and soundness of FHFA's regulated entities and the security and stability of the U.S. mortgage market. In the course of exercising U.S. federal housing authorities under the Federal Housing Enterprises Financial Safety and Soundness Act of 1992, U.S. federal housing has identified matters that are appropriate for referral to the U.S. Department of Justice for consideration of criminal prosecution. So, in other words, they're like, listen, we done found something that you need to pay some attention to because this is serious and we take allegations like this serious. If you guys remember, the former district attorney of up there in Maryland, Marilyn Mosby, she caught herself a case for falsifying mortgage documents. I don't remember all of the details surrounding her situation, but it seems that this seems to be a thing that Democrats are always guilty of. And then yet, in true hypocritical fashion, they accuse their political opponents of doing something, but it's like, you're actually guilty of the thing or something similar that you were accusing your opponents of. And so it says here that based on media reports, Miss Letitia James has, in multiple instances, falsified bank documents and property records to acquire government-backed assistance and loans and more favorable loan terms. So here is the reason why there is a criminal referral to this. They are highlighting that, listen, if you're not going to buy these properties cash and you're going to have a mortgage on them and you're coming to the federal government for access to specialized loan programs, you need to be, when you fill out these loan applications, everything needs to be on the up and up, and you are supposed to honestly answer the questions truthfully and honestly. And here they are saying that in multiple instances, she has falsified bank documents, and not just that, she done finagled property records in order to acquire these government-backed assistance loans and to get more favorable terms. So it says this has potentially included: one, falsifying resident status for a Norfolk, Virginia-based home in order to secure a lower mortgage rate. And then two, misrepresenting property descriptions to meet stringent requirements for government-backed loans and government assistance. Let me break this down for you. Normally, in order to qualify for a certain kind of loan, the residency requirement has to match. So, for example, you can't get the same kind of loan terms on an owner-occupied property that you would for a tenant-occupied property. If it's going to be a rental property, if you qualify and meet credit worthiness, they'll lend to you. However, the terms are not as favorable as if you were going to occupy that property as your primary residence. So here, number one, falsifying resident status for a Norfolk, Virginia-based home in order to secure a lower mortgage rate. So, homegirl lives in New York. It sounds as if, and we're going to discover and examine to find out, that she implied that, oh no, the property in Norfolk, Virginia, that's going to be my primary residence so that she could get a lower mortgage rate. And then 2, misrepresenting the property descriptions in order to meet stringent requirements. So once again, a lot of these loans have very specific terms. Sometimes it can't be more than a 2-family home or a 4-family home, or it can't have X number of bedrooms, or it can't be, it cannot exceed a certain amount of square footage or acreage. Sometimes they even have property restrictions as it relates to what county it can be located in. Each loan has its own terms and conditions that must be met. For example, a USDA home loan, it has to be in a rural area, and it has to be within the boundaries. You have to have, some of them have income restrictions. All of these government-backed loans come with stipulations and strings attached. So here's a little background. It says on August 17th, 2023, Ms. James granted Miss Shamice Thompson Hairston power of attorney to make a Virginia property, her principal residence. So she's given someone else POA to declare this Virginia property as her primary residence. Now, since when does the New York Attorney General primarily live in Norfolk, Virginia? News to me. I'm today years old and I didn't know you could do that. Now, I do know you can have a vacation home, right? A house in the mountains, one on the beach, but your primary residence, your domicile, typically coincides with where you've had your driver's license issued, where you spend the vast majority of your time. You work in New York, you live in New York, and therefore, how do you have a primary residence in the state of New York and in Norfolk, Virginia? Exhibit A, which we're going to look at, says on August 30th and 31st of 2023, through her attorney, Ms. James purchased this property in Norfolk, Virginia. So this is a new purchase. Because at first I said, I don't want to accuse the Trump administration of being petty and digging through the crates looking for stuff that happened, when Jesus was an infant, right? I don't want to be guilty of that. Now, I don't see why, they dug through the crates to see what, and if anything, Trump had ever done. So, hey, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gamet. However, this is right around the time she was being real froggy and aggressive trying to lock up the now president of the United States with a case that no one had ever seen anyone ever charged before. There was no crime. Like, who was harmed? Who was harmed? Who was taken advantage of? Like, where is the crime in that Trump real estate case? It says here in a Fannie Mae Freddie Mac Form 3047 and in mortgage documents, she reaffirmed this would be her primary residence. So it's like, in the Apostle Paul in Galatians, and I said it before and I'm going to say it again. If anyone come to you preaching another gospel, he's reiterating just in case you didn't hear me the first time. That's what it sounds like happened with Big Tish here. On the mortgage app, she affirms it. And in mortgage documents, she reaffirms, yes, this is my primary residence. Kind of like Ananias and Sapphira, when the apostle is asking, okay, did y'all sell a property? Like, They're like, what was the price? And they say it, they're like, and this was the price. Like, you asked them multiple times. And they're like, yes, this is the price. And what did God do? Struck them down dead. Now, I'm not saying, y'all, I'm just being funny. But the point is, it's just not like this was a misstep. Oh, a misspeak. It's like, no, on multiple occasions, you affirm and then reaffirm that your primary residence is in Norfolk, Virginia. And she probably did this because she really didn't think. They always don't think they're going to get caught and think that people are going to care enough to dig into the details. But the devil is always in them details, ain't he? He always in them details. Now it says, despite being a statewide public office holder in the state of New York at the same time, and primarily residing in the state of New York. See Exhibit B. In fact, a building permit issued on her New York property on July 15th, 2024. Well, look at here on my. This was the next year later. So we got 2023 August. She gets the power of attorney to go and give me this property down by the waterside. And then in the mortgage application, she reaffirms it again. And then this is another example of her affirming, this is my primary residence, when she goes to get a building permit the next year, July 15th, 2024, she lists her New York property as the James residence and states remain occupied. So by her own admission, she like, I live in New York. Why? Because I got this property up in New York and I need a building permit for it to, do some improvements. And this is my primary residence. But I thought the Virginia house was your primary residence, TT. Which one is it, ma'am? So here, as you can see, owner's information. It's got her name, relationship to owner self, business name, James Residence. It's not a nonprofit. And she indicates and certifies by checking the box yes, owner's certification regarding occupied housing, remain occupied, and checks the box no under the owner's certification regarding occupied housing, rent. Okay. Primary residence mortgages receive more favorable loan terms, including lower interest rates than secondary residence mortgages. Lenders view secondary residence mortgages as significantly riskier, as a borrower is more likely to continue paying off a primary residence mortgage during any financial hardship. Interest rates on secondary residence mortgages are typically between 0.25% and 0.5% higher than their primary residence counterparts. However, this gap can widen depending on the lender. At the time of the 2023 Norfolk, Virginia property purchase and mortgage, Miss James was the sitting Attorney General of New York and is required by law to have her primary residence in the state of New York, even though her mortgage applications list her intent to have the Norfolk, Virginia property as her primary home. I mean, how does this work? How are you the sitting Attorney General of New York and going to declare the Norfolk property is your primary residence? You can't have it both ways, Big Tish. Either you live in New York and you are the AG for New York, or you live in Virginia and then you can't be the AG of New York. It appears Ms. James's property and mortgage-related misrepresentations may have continued to her recent 2023 Norfolk, Virginia property purchase in order to secure a lower interest rate and more favorable terms. So she just out here just misrepresenting. There's a word for that. It's called lying, but I'm trying to be nice tonight. I'm trying to be nice. Now, they're giving us a little history, a little backstory. They're taking us back to January 26th of 2021, where certificate of occupancy lists this property as having 5 units, which is, for all of you who don't know, New York, it is customary to have these multi-family properties. I used to hate those. It'd be like 3 floors, and sometimes they would have like 2 units on each floor. So it could be like 5 or 6 units, or sometimes the top unit might just be 1. And typically what they do with these properties is they gut them out and turn them into 1, or sometimes they do keep them separate to generate income from it. But it says on February 14th, 2001, Ms. Letitia James purchased this 5-family dwelling. Ms. James secured a conforming loan through the Fannie Mae Freddie Mac Form 3033. Conforming loans are only available on 4-unit or less structures. Well, I know sometimes her eye be doing something, like it be looking, that one be looking that way and this one look this way. So maybe she didn't think that 4 was a 5. Maybe, I don't know where the confusion lied, but the certificate of occupancy listed as having 5 units, and she applies for a loan that is only designed to be for units that are 4 units and below. Just a little minor detail, thought I'd say. Now, since spanning the last 2 decades, Miss James has consistently, you 20 years in the game, Big Tish. She's consistently misrepresented the same property as only having 4 units in both building permit applications and numerous mortgage documents and applications. Now, this is very common. I would add, this is very common to misrepresent the true nature of either square footage or the amount of bedrooms. Some people do it for tax purposes. Some people do it when they're actually applying for the mortgage because they want to fit the round peg into the square hole. They want the best terms possible. And so they're like, well, what's a little fudging the numbers a little bit? 4 units, 5 units, what's the difference, right? Yeah. Well, she's been doing this, misrepresenting consistently, not filing an affidavit saying, oh, y'all, my bad. I know I had told y'all that this was 4 units, but it's really 5. No, she didn't do that. She didn't make an effort to go back and correct it. She continued to do it over 20 years, making sure when I'm getting these occupancy certificates and building permits to do improvements, you can't tell the truth. We got to make sure that we let them know it's only 4 units, because then we're going to run into some problems down the line. She goes, this even includes a 2011 application for the Home Affordable Modification Program. Let me find out that during them Obama years when everybody was drowning trying to get them loans modified, she was trying to get one of them too. Oh, you are more like us than you let on. Listen, between 2008 and 2012, so many of us were down bad. And I remember, do you guys remember that time when a lot of people were trying to get their loans modified because the market was so trash? And we had these loans, but we were all like in negative equity positions because the market was just so bad and the houses weren't holding their value. A lot of people applied for these home affordable modification programs to try to get the loan modified just to get some relief. Because, Obama bailed out Wall Street and forgot about Main Street. Y'all remember that? Told y'all. Always at the hand of these darn Democrats. Anyway, it's funny. She's a Democrat. She was struggling, but yet this is what is so weird to me. These individuals who are dyed-in-the-wool Democrat, who actually are victims of the harm of their own party, you would think at some level they'd be like, you know what, we might really want to consider the policies that we are supporting because they're not helping us. I mean, I don't know. I know that's what I did, right? I was not born a liberal, but I was raised relatively liberal or democratic. And once I became a mom and a small business owner, followed by the Lord saving me, the way I looked at the world and the Democrat policy platform, it shifted. Especially when I became a small business owner, I was like, yeah, this is not the life. This is not the life. I started just paying attention to so many different things. But anyway, it says most recently, a 2019 mortgage refinancing through a Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac lender, Exhibit E. So they're going to provide receipts for all of this. This is normally you would think this little, criminal referral letter be like, hey, we believe there's something here. Y'all go ahead and take a look at it, look into it. No, they are given the receipts in order for this to be escalated further. And I saw at the beginning of the live stream, a lot of us are like, ain't nothing gonna happen. It's gonna be the same old. Maybe not. Pam Bondi does not strike me as one for play. Like, this is low hanging fruit for her. Okay. And I don't have a whole lot of faith in these do nothing, Republicans. However, I do believe that there is enough here. There is enough here for them to at least pursue it. And they may even have enough to get a conviction. And what that's going to do is put these Democrats on their heels and be like, see, it don't feel good. This lawfare ain't fun, is it? The only difference between you and me Tish, if they actually found something on you and you was just reaching, trying to build a case. But this here is legitimate. So it seems, allegedly. You know, you got to say that part. Conforming loans, or Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac backed loans, have favorable rates and terms to traditional private market mortgages for the explicit purpose of availability to lower and middle income borrowers. I can remember the net worth of Tish James. I don't really think she would have qualified for lower to mid income based on all the bread in her pocket that just came from places like all that money she got to fund her campaign. And I know she has some money left over, you know, that George Soros money, that's that long money. This is an interesting detail. Why is someone of her financial bracket and status taking a look at lower and middle income type loans? I don't know. Who's to say? Maybe the money on paper is different from what's in the bank. There may be some there, Pam Bondi. I don't know. Call your girl. I can sit second chair. I ain't got no law degree, but you know, neither did Aaron Brockovich. But you see how impactful she was. Anyway, conforming single family loans are subject to a cap of 4 dwellings per property. A building that exceeds 4 units must be treated as a multifamily property and typically has larger down payment requirements and higher interest rate terms. I'm gonna need the grammar on this to get cleaned up because it's words here that got plurals that shouldn't. They had interest rates terms. There's too many S's. Get rid of that S. You see, I'm grading this like a homeschooling mama. I'm just circling and crossing out all kinds of things. Anyway, it's well written, but there's a few punctuation issues. Who am I to talk the way I be misspelling? I be misspelling stuff in my titles. There's probably something misspelled here. Who knows? Anyway, it says with interest rates being between 75-1% higher due to lenders viewing multifamily loans as significantly riskier. Additionally, the government's Home Assistance Modification Program was started in 2008 to provide homeowners at risk of foreclosure with reduced monthly mortgage payments, and recipients had to have properties with 4 dwellings or less. So I just gave y'all the backstory. I was right around 2008. That Home Assistance Modification Program, with so many of us were down bad with these loans and these high interest rates and negative equity, we're looking for relief. One of the stipulations was the property got to be less than 4 units, and you actually had to demonstrate hardship, be at risk of foreclosure. I remember I had friends whose mortgage companies like, we can't help you till you get behind. They're like, but what about my credit? They're like, what about it? You got to demonstrate that you are at risk of foreclosure. And so we don't know what Tish James's financial situation was back then. She could have been part of the lower to middle income borrower class, but we know for a fact that this property definitely does not have 4 units or less. Just a little detail. It appears that Miss James may have listed the Brooklyn, New York property as 4 units instead of 5 units in order to meet the conforming loan requirements and thus receive better interest rates. Rules for thee, but not for me, according to Tish. Let me just say this real quick. Tish, I don't understand why we, and I'm saying we as Black women, typically, Alvin Bragg, he a beta boy soy boy, so I'm not surprised that he fell for the okie doke, but why is it that Black women in power who are liberal and progressive keep letting these Democrats make a fool out of you? They dangle these juicy carrots in front of you. This will be the case of your career. You'll be the star of the Democrat Party. Oh, the governor's mansion is in your future. all we need you to do is file these bogus cases, right? Because we can't let that orange man back in office. And these black women, yes, sir, master, I'll do whatever you need, sir. You can count on me. Tish James, Fonnie Willis, what's the other Tanya with the funny last name, Tachukin? Well, I don't know how to pronounce that name, but all of these black women did the bidding and filed these cases and went after Trump. And they really thought that, the Democrat Party was going to protect them. And I don't know why they thought that the shoe was going to be reversed eventually, and the same measure of judgment that you enact, it's going to be pointed right back at you. And what happened? Fonnie Willis out here with a little boy toy. I mean, that's a mess. I can't even believe Fulton County voted her in again with all the crap that's coming out about her. But this chick, the same thing. Falsifying documents. The same thing she's trying to accuse Trump of. She appears to have used the same falsification in order to receive mortgage assistance through the HAMP program. So they do a little analysis, and we'll wrap it up quickly. What time is it? Am I doing good? Oh, I'm doing great. Okay. Ms. James, both properties listed above, appears to have falsified records in order to meet certain lending requirements and receive favorable terms. U.S. Federal Housing FHFA believes this and other alleged misconduct could be violations of the criminal code under Section 18 U.S.C. 1343, wire fraud. Oh, snap. Wait a minute now. So here's where the wire fraud comes in. If they actually had to mail these documents and the mail system was used, or the wiring of funds were used, that's where I guess the wire fraud comes in. A lot of times with these mortgages, the money and funds, I know when we closed on our house, we had to wire funds. So that's the wire fraud right there. Then the mail fraud, US 1341, and then bank fraud, US 1344. And then US 1014, false statements to a financial institution and or other relevant state and federal laws. For your reference, I've also attached documentation which shows in 19, dang, now bro, 83. All right, now that's a little excessive, but hey, maybe they're building a case to demonstrate, hey, she got a history of all this lying on paper, right? It shows in 1983 that Ms. James and her father signed mortgage documents that stated that they were husband and wife. Okay, that's just nasty. Tish, really? 83? Okay, 83 was 3 years ago? Tish is 50? You just nasty. You ain't got no shame. Anyway, then in 1983, Ms. James and her father signed mortgage documents that stated that they were husband and wife in order to secure a home mortgage. Oh, you an old school scammer. I see what you did there, Tish. That's Exhibit F. We're going to take a look at that if we have time. Then, on May 4th, 2000, Ms. James was listed again as husband and wife in documents. See Exhibit G. So you've been passing your daddy off as your boo thing from 83 and in 2000? Okay, that's just okay. While this was a long time ago, okay, so they're going to get to the point. 'Cause I was like, this is a long time ago. Y'all went way, way back. It raises serious concerns about the validity of Miss James' representations. There should be apostrophe after that S on James. Anyway, Miss James's representations on mortgage applications. See, let me tell you something. I am in no way asserting that, Donald Trump is this man after God's own heart and the Lord's hand is just resting on him. Like, it's not even that deep. This is just a simple situation where in politics, you had one individual that the swamp just didn't want to see in office, and they pulled out everything to try to discredit him and bar him entry into a duly elected office that the American people overwhelmingly said, we want him. And then these same individuals are guilty of doing this. This is, to me, this is worse. It's one thing the allegation against Trump was, oh, he inflated the property value. But the bank is like, no, not really, because we did our appraisal and we made our lending decision based on that appraisal, and we were fine with it. And not only that, he's already paid us back, right? Like, they went looking for something. But now that the shoe is on the other foot, y'all ain't really think that the big dog was going to pull out the big guns and be like, I got something for you. This is why I think Tish was probably fighting so hard, because she knew that if he ever got back into power, that everything, listen, this is one of them silly moments. Everything you do gonna fail. You know what I'm saying? Like, Mr. just everything he tried to do to Sealy. And then did you see how he ended up? Lord have mercy. There are, unfortunately, too many examples of individuals who commit fraud or mortgage fraud. Their argument is going to be, well, I don't even understand why this is not that serious. Really? You thought it was serious enough to not get 1, 2, 3, 4 cases trying to slap that man with some felonies. So yes, it is that serious. Why? Ain't y'all the ones that ain't nobody above the law? Isn't that been this argument the whole time? Hear me clearly. This is not me trying to be an apologist for Donald Trump. This is an opportunity for me to point out and show you guys that these Democrats are just as dirty, and they are trash. And they are so inconsistent, and they are so hypocritical, that now that this is coming out, my question is, what are the Republicans going to do? They need to go ahead and pursue this. Don't be like, we're going to take the high road. No, I ain't no taking no high road. We ain't taking no high road. Not this time. At least I wouldn't. It's not about vengeance. They didn't make this up. Allegedly, these are bona fide things and misrepresentations and outright lies, lying on an app, claiming your daddy is your father just so you can get a mortgage loan. Where's your man? Is Tish James married? Y'all let me know in the comments. Do she have a man? I mean, is it you just been a rebellious orangutan for that long, that dating back to 1983? You had to get your daddy? Is it because y'all shared the last name and it was just kind of easy to make that, to kind of push that through? I don't know. I don't know who you calling an Oreo, Elmore. But we can kindly put you can go if you see your way out, if you don't know how to engage yourself in an intelligent and respectful manner. My block game is strong. I don't know what an Oreo is. Is the idea that people who have a difference of opinion on you, I must be white on the inside? Is that it? I'm hoping I'm not misreading the comment wrong. I got your Oreo pimping. I bet you won't say it to my face. How about that? She's divorced. That's what I thought. Big bag. I know that's right, Lorena. Anyway, so I function in my freedom. I don't allow these weak, emasculated Democrat soy boys to think you can come over here and bully somebody like somebody's scared of you. Okay? That's not the case. We function in our freedom over here, and we're able to look at things objectively based on the facts and not our feelings. We don't examine the world based on colors of black and whites. You're on the wrong channel and you're on the wrong side of the YouTube streets if you think that's what we do over here. I am a full-fledged Black woman through and through. But right is right and wrong is wrong. And I don't view the world through some ethnic lens. So where I got to stand in solidarity with a chick out here lying, talking about her daddy is her husband. Like, no, I don't need to sit at the Queen with the K table with all the other Black women and stand in solidarity with them as if they can't do no wrong. That's not how we do. So anyway, as always, no. 2 examples. Oh, I forgot to read this part, you guys. There are unfortunately too many examples of individuals who commit fraud or mortgage fraud. Just last year, they brought, y'all, I promise y'all, I did not read this full letter before this live stream. They actually brought up the very case that I referenced. I should have went to law school. I think I missed. That could have been one of my callings. I could have went to law school. Because with this mount, I'll give a fiery closing argument. Yes, I would. Just last year, a federal jury convicted Marilyn J. Mosby of Baltimore, Maryland, on the federal charge of making a false mortgage application when she was Baltimore City State's attorney, relating to the purchase of her property in Florida. Same thing. Just last week, after the hard work of our agencies, IG and the DOJ, a St. Louis man pled guilty to fraudulently obtaining home mortgages. As always, we look forward to cooperating with the Department of Justice to support any actions that the Department of Justice finds appropriate. U.S. Federal Housing FHFA appreciates the Department of Justice support in ensuring the protection of American home buyers and taxpayers from mortgage fraud and other financial misconduct. Respectfully submitted, William J. Pulte, Director of U.S. Federal Housing, FHFA. And then these are the exhibits where this is the power of attorney, where she signed off the power of attorney to the Shamisha chick. What was her name? She said, where was it? Yeah, Shamise. Not Shamisa, Shamise. So here you see the POA. Shamise Thomas Harrison. She gives Shamise POA to, hey, go and get this property for me down in Norfolk, right? And then here's her signature here, and it's notarized, right, by Julius Crockwell, Notary Public of the State of New York. And then Exhibit B, this is the deed of trust. And we could probably zoom this deed of trust a little bit. It don't go anymore. But this is that property in Virginia where the deed of trust was given to Shamise and Letitia. And let's see, obviously the property rights, the address is, basically these are the actual copies of the mortgage documents, right? And here, let's see here. This is kind of hard to see, but I'm sure here somewhere on these mortgage documents is where she has asserted that the property was going to be owner occupied. In terms of her position to the property. Here it is. Darn it. I know it's hard for you guys to see, but it's right here. In terms of, where she asserts that she's a resident of Virginia. And this is the type of property. Let me see here if I can examine this. Y'all get the gist of it. If y'all want a link to this, I mean, just for your perusement pleasure, I can always include a link in the description if y'all want to see it for yourself. But that's the POA. This is a copy of the building permit from New York with the certificate of occupancy. One family. So in the basement, It's a basement plus a 3-story, and it is a total of 5 family dwelling. But the assertion is that when applying for the loan on it, she implied that it was 4 family. Now, to be fair, perhaps in the basement, maybe they don't use, well, they do have a cellar ordinary. Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, it's going to be hard for her to fight this one, because I know like a lot of these properties, sometimes it'll have the cellar and the basement actually is living space. I was going to say, maybe she could say, no, well, technically it's 5 family, but we use it as a 4, but this is really going to be based off of technicality, I believe. If they really want to dig, they might just be like, well, you misrepresented it, you know? I'm interested to see how she's going to defend herself if an indictment is made. But this is another document where the deed was recorded. New York property. Okay. Yeah, that's what that is. That's another one. And then this, wow. They pulled this from the microfiche. They pulled her actual mortgage from 1983. Ooh! Y'all see this right here? Oh my goodness. Robert James and Letitia James, his wife. Do y'all see it? Y'all, that's wild. That is wild. Ew, that's nasty though. Like, why would you do that? I don't know. Anyway, here's another document. They certified that the following mortgage is paid and does hereby consent that the same be discharged of record. Mortgage dated the 20th day of May, 1983, made by Robert James and Letitia James, his wife. So here's the thing with this. People are going to be like, oh, well, the mortgage, it was paid off. Yeah, but so was Donald Trump's. He had paid it off. Nobody was defrauded. The banks were like, there's nothing to see here. Yes, that's what we lent him. That was the property appraisal. We went back and forth, agreed on the amount. We lent the money. He paid us back with interest. He's a great client. Nothing to see here. This is a discharge on this property dating back in 83. The issue is the misrepresentation. They're gonna get her and say, why would you lie and say that your daddy is your husband? Like, why are you your daddy's wife? It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all. So those were all the documents. And I enjoyed this one. I sure did. That was fun. I just think that they should have left Donald Trump alone. Like, unless they had some legitimate, like the lawfare that we saw witnessed and how the judicial system was weaponized for things that, like, they dug through the crates and found that old ugly broad, E. Jean Carroll. I mean, listen, they could say this is a form of incest. I don't know. This is crazy. It's just wild.